What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the TokenMinorities, bringing you the battle for the first round of playoffs of Season 7 of the CPC, and this week we are up against Volume and his Arizona Dactyls. And before I get into the team, just a reminder that if you guys like this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button as it helps us out a lot, and let's just do more cool stuff for you guys. But anyway, on to the team. Like I said, we are up against Volume, and his team consists of Landorus T, Latias Mega Scizor, Thundy I, Volcarona, Keldeo, Spiritomb, Comfey, or Comfey, however you want to say it, Hitmontop, and Gogoat, with the Z users being Landorus, and I forgot to write down the second one. I think it's Comfey. Let me check really quickly. Okay, I was right, it is Comfey, but I mean, I'm not really too worried about that thing. So for all intents and purposes, Landorus is his Z user, and I'll be honest, this is probably the most top-heavy team in the entire league, but that being said, it's still a very, very scary team. Because even though in all likelihood, he's going to be bringing Landorus, Latias, Mega Scizor, Thundy, Volcarona, and Keldeo just the first 6 Mons, that doesn't mean that it's any easier to prepare for, because it's still just like, oh, I know what 6 he's bringing, okay, now how am I going to deal with that? So that's going to be very rough for me to deal with, but one thing I am noticing is that he has a single rocker on his team, only one being Landorus T, and considering I have a Charizard, that actually makes this a lot easier to, well, not necessarily easier, but like it kind of limits what he can do, because when you're against a Charizard team, you definitely want to have rocks. I mean, there are some instances where you don't, but I mean, it's not like you guaranteed have to, but you are more inclined to bring rocks just because of that 4x weakness, and even just the weakness that it has once Mega Evolved. So considering that Landorus is going to have to be his rocker if he wants to bring rocks, that means it's limited on the number of moves it can have, so therefore Landorus is probably going to be a more defensive role, meaning that it's less likely that I have to deal with an offensive variant. But that being said, Landorus as an offensive variant is still incredibly scary to deal with, and is going to be something that I still have to 100% prepare for, but between Skarmory and Tangrowth shouldn't be too overly difficult to deal with. But also, speaking of Charizard, his team has no switch-ins to Charizard. Like, holy crap, this thing with the right move just obliterates something. Even with the wrong move, it can still obliterate something. So that's going to be kind of what my game plan is around using Charizard, but also Calm Mind Tapu Koko has the ability to just sweep his team completely once even just the Landorus is gone. Once that thing is gone or worn down, Tapu Koko can run through his entire team, and that's kind of going to be what I'm going to center my strategy around. It's the combination of Tapu Koko and Charizard just going in against him. So the first Mon that I am bringing is the aforementioned Tapu Koko with Calm Mind, Thunderbolt, Dazzling Gleam, and Roost, just a standard Calm Mind dual stab set with Electrium Z to blow back what I'm assuming is going to be Mega Scizor as his response to my Tapu Koko, or like an Assault Vest Thundurus. I believe that was brought against me. I think that was brought against me last season when I had Tapu Koko. So either way, both of them get absolutely blown back by Electrium Z, especially at +1. Even a Spadef Scizor will not be able to take that, as I'm thinking that that's going to potentially be the way that he tries to deal with me. And also Latias, I don't need Dazzling Gleam for, or I don't need Z Dazzling Gleam for, as just regular Dazzling Gleam does enough, and it's also setup fodder with Calm Mind. So that's basically what my Tapu Koko is, just a very straightforward set. The speed is enough for Thundy through maxed out my special attack and through the rest into HP. Very, very straightforward set. Nothing tricky going on there. Next up is going to be a Gengar with Substitute, Shadow Ball, Taunt, and HP Fire. Now this is going to be a really polarizing Mon in this matchup. Gengar is either going to do an absolute crap ton, or it is going to do absolutely nothing. Like, there's legitimately no in between. He's either going to bring a team that's super weak to Gengar, or a team that just kind of demolishes Gengar. And what I mean by that is, so Gengar, if you look at his team, he has no Ghost Resist. However, he does have like a Spadef Mega Scizor, and also the Mons that Gengar will be trying to take out. I mean, he are generally faster, like Latias, Mega Scizor with Bullet Punch, Thundy T can outspeed, Spiritomb, while it doesn't necessarily resist, can Pursuit Trap, Shadow Sneak. Like, if he wants Gengar to not do anything, Gengar is not going to do anything, but if he does not fully prepare for Gengar, then it's going to go in against him. And it was one of those mons that I was like, okay, Gengar might do a lot, it might not do anything, but I think it's just too potentially good in this matchup that I just have to bring in. A subset is because I'm thinking that Gengar forces enough stuff out, like it forces out things like Keldeo, specifically Keldeo, that I'm thinking you're going to be Choice Scarfed and potentially locked into Secret Sword. I can sub up on that, maybe a defensive Landorus T that doesn't want to get knocked out by Shadow Ball. Just finding the right situations to sub up is going to be imperative with Gengar, because otherwise Gengar will be outsped, and it's really frail. Gengar is super frail, so yeah, have to be smart with how I play the Gengar. Shadow Ball, because again, he doesn't have any ghost resists. Substitute for the ability to take a hit from the stuff that can outspeed or out prioritize Gengar and be able to, well, what was I trying to say? Substitute, yeah, for that stuff so that I can sub up if Gengar forces a switch, and then I can hopefully take those guys out to where Gengar can put in work. Taunt was originally, what was it? I think it was originally Pain Split on this set, but I decided that, okay, Volcarona is a huge threat to me. Gengar can outspeed, and also Taunt is something that I can kind of just go for on a switch or something like that if I want to prevent setting up. So basically, Volcarona just won't be able to use Gengar as setup fodder if it's a super Volky Volcarona. Wow. You know what? I'm gonna roll with that. Volcarona. That's going to be the nickname for Volcarona from here on out. And then finally, HP Fire for the Scizor, because, I mean, I can just run a mono Shadow Ball set. I really can against his team, but HP Fire, if I can get rid of that Mega Scizor, then it just makes things a lot easier for the rest of my team. I can potentially blow my Z on Tapu Koko on something else and not have to save it for Mega Scizor. Just really, Mega Scizor is something that's not a huge issue for my team, but if I can get rid of it, then I might as well. Next up, we're going to have my Keldeo switch in a Spadef Tangrowth with Giga Drain, Rock Tomb, HP Ice, and Leech Seed. And apart from Go-Goat, he has absolutely zero switch-ins to Leech Seed, so that can be something that's really annoying for him to have to deal with, and I don't know why these EVs automatically change, so I'm just going to put those back. But yeah, Tangrowth is going to be my main switch-in to his Keldeo, as otherwise Keldeo is a huge issue for me to deal with, and also Latias, just because I also have a Spadef Uxie, but putting all the special pressure that will be put on Uxie, I want to kind of have a release valve or something to relieve the pressure a little bit, and so the combination of Tangrowth and Uxie is going to be what I'm relying on to take on his special threats like Latias, Thundy, and Keldeo. Volcarona, you'll see what I have to deal with that later. And yeah, just plain and simple, that's what Tangrowth is here for, and then also be a nice ground resist for Landorus T. In between Tangrowth and Skarmory, Landorus T is not going to be doing crap to me offensively. So just its presence is really nice. A nice pivot, nice for Leech Seed, be able to recover health on some of my mons. The Spadef is enough to avoid a 2-hit KO from Specs Keldeo, Hydro Pump after Rocks. Oh, I forgot to go over Gengar's EVs, but I mean, that's pretty straightforward. It's literally just max to try to speed tie Latias, and then just max special attack, so nothing special there. But yeah, the Tangrowth, avoid a 2-hit KO from Specs Keldeo, Hydro Pump after Rocks, so that this thing can be my all-purpose Keldeo switch-in, no matter the situation. Next up is going to be a Skarmory. Oh, and I also have a Rock Tomb, because as you can see, Volcarona is a huge threat, and even though I have a Charizard, spoilers for it, my MO was really just don't let Volcarona set up on anything. Because I mean, Tapu Koko can obliterate it with a Z Thunderbolt. Gengar has Taunt. Tangrowth has Rock Tomb. As you can see, Skarmory is going to have Brave Bird, and Uxie will have T-Wave, and then Charizard is just kind of Charizard. So yeah, just don't let Volcarona set up on me. I think Volcarona is going to be his way of beating me. So I just had to prevent that in any way possible, and so that's kind of what I'm going for. Skarmory is going to be my Landorus check, just plain and simple. That's what Skarmory is there for, with also Defog, Taunt, Roost, Brave Bird with the Rocky Helmet. Just very straightforward set. Get Chip on his U-turning mons of Mega Scizor and Landorus T. This thing also can potentially take on Scizor like a curse set. I can taunt that thing to where it cannot beat me 1v1. A fast SD set will still be able to wear out my taunt and still be able to roost up once the taunt wears off, but I'm not thinking that the Scizor is going to be particularly speedy, so that's kind of why I invested a decent amount of speed in my Skarmory. Brave Bird, just a nice stab to spam, and also hits Volcarona really hard. Defog for Charizard, because Charizard is very important in this matchup, and then Taunt Roost, very straightforward. The defense is enough to avoid the Oko from Jolly +2 Continental Crush after Rocks, because even though I said that Landorus is probably not going to be offensive against me, I would be amiss? I don't know. It wouldn't be right to not prepare for Landorus offensively, so that's why Skarmory is still defensive. Next up is going to be my Stealth Rocker in Uxie. I'm going to speed up a little bit because I've already been talking for 10 minutes and none of it has really been quality narration per se. But either way, Uxie is going to be with Tangrowth, my Spadef core for Thundy, Latias, and Keldeo, just kind of a way to deal with that. And then also Stealth Rock is going to be very, very good against him, particularly because his only removal is going to be, well, besides Hitmontop, but Hitmontop is an Unmon, and I have Skarmory and Gengar for that thing, so yeah, Hitmontop is not coming in this matchup. So his removal is going to be Defog, so I mean, if he defogs, well, he gets rid of rocks for me, so happy birthday to me. But either way, Uxie's a very reliable rocker with Psyshock to be able to hit the Keldeo in case it's like a Calm Mind set. U-Turn's just very nice against his team, like a Calm Mind Latias, get momentum, and then T-Wave is the Volcarona setup deterrent. I can T-Wave that thing so it can't fully set up on me. The EVs, the speed is enough to outspeed 20 invested Comfey. The defense is to live 2 Jolly Landorus knockoffs after rocks, and then the rest of it is just thrown into Spadef for Thundy just to take hits as well as possible. And finally, we have a Spadef Charizard. Well, I mean, it's technically Jolly, but it's a specially defensive Charizard. This is my way of dealing with Volcarona, just because Charizard defensive typing is ridiculous. Like, I really, really like it, particularly in this matchup. Be able to resist Volcarona's Dual Stab, force it to run a hidden power that will only be like 120 damage when super effective. Charizard is just so freaking bulky, and then its attack plus Tough Claws means I can still more than likely Oko Volcarona from full. I mean, even if he's a Volcarona, well, after rocks, even just a little bit of chip damage here and there, Flare Blitz will still be do a very sizable chunk, if not outright KO it. So yeah, the Spadef is enough for avoiding a 2-hit KO from modest Volcarona to HP ground, and the speed is enough for something speed creeping my Nidoking. And just the Dual Stab Roost. Dragon Dance is in the same vein as my Calm Mind Roost Tapu Koko. All I need is Dual Stab and a boosting move, even though I'm a Spadef variant. Nothing wrong with boosting because, like I said earlier, he has no switch-ins to Charizard. So yeah, I am done rambling, so let's just go ahead and hop right on over to the game. Alrighty, here we are in the battle, and the first thing I'm noticing is that there is not a Keldeo, so I was like, yeah, but when I saw that there was a Go-Go, I was like, wait. Why is Go-Goat actually annoying for my team? Because, I mean, it's something that can take on Tapu Koko. As a Spadef variant, can very easily take Dazzling Gleams. I mean, I don't have Toxic on anything. The only super effective coverage I have is on Charizard, which, although Charizard is a very good switch-in, and Skarmory can potentially beat it 1v1 with Taunt and Brave Bird, I can't just spam Leech Seed against this team either with my Tangrowth, and Gengar's Shadow Ball, if he's Spadef, will not be doing a whole lot. So I'm like, dang, why is this Go-Goat actually somewhat of an issue? But either way, I see the Volcarona. Rocks are going to 100% be a priority in this game, especially with that Thundurus and the Landorus, just because I want passive damage. Charizard, I will have ample opportunities to Mega Evolve up against the Volcarona, the Scizor, the Go-Goat, just half his team, even the Thundy. Like, okay, so, yeah. Not 3/4, I can't do math. 2/3 of his team, Charizard has a free opportunity to Mega Evolve up against, so I'm not too worried about him getting up rocks in the early game, so I'm just going to lead off with my Uxie, get up my rocks, as he does get me on the lead, and leads with Scizor. Now I'm thinking he's just going to go for a U-turn, so I'm going to pull the switch in my Skarmory. I'll get information on what type of Scizor this is while getting Rocky Helmet chip off, and that damage reveals that the Scizor is defensive, or not necessarily defensive, he's just not invested in attack, so I'm thinking that it's going to be like a Spadef nature to try to take on my Tapu Koko. And he goes into his Thundy, but this is just a free switch back into my Spadef Uxie, as that Sludge Wave does nothing. I think he was trying to catch me on the Tapu Koko switch or the Tangrowth switch. and also has the opportunity to poison me. But as you can see, that did 23%, and I'm already back up at 83%. He's not Life Orb, he's not Spec, so that is not a boosting item on the Thundy. So this is just a free opportunity to get up my rocks with my Uxie, as he does pull the switch into Scizor. So I mean, it's a good play, but rocks are up. He's going to have to defog if he wants to not take damage with Thundy and Volcarona every time they come in, and Landorus and Latias to a lesser extent. So knowing that he's either going to U-turn or defog, I'm going to pull the switch into my Charizard to try to get my Mega off, and lo and behold, he defogs. That is great. I can just Mega Evolve, and nothing on his team wants to take a Flare Blitz. Like, even Latias will take a very good chunk. So he goes into his Landorus, which, I mean, I assumed, even from just building in the team, was going to be his Zard switch in, and that damage does reveal that the Landorus is defensive. It's not only max HP, but it is defensive as well, and so that's a lot. I mean, basically, when I found that out, I was like, okay, Gengar and Koko can go in, because once Koko gets up to +1 with rocks, I can potentially knock out this Landorus, depending on its investment. So, yeah, Koko and Gengar, as soon as Landorus revealed to be defensive, and even lefties at that, I was like, okay, this is going to be great for me. Unfortunately, I get a burn, which really, really sucks, because that limits Landorus's longevity a whole heck of a lot, and even though Landorus hits like a truck, the fact that it's defensive already meant that its damage was significantly reduced, but now the burn reduces that even further to where Landorus is a non-threat. So that is really, really nice for me and very unfortunate for him, as I'm going to pull the switch into my Uxie thinking he might try to get his rocks up or go for Earthquake, but he does get me, goes for the U-turn, and is able to bring in his Mega Scizor. But Uxie, I know, can take whatever hit Mega Scizor wants to go for. He's shown that he's going to go for U-turn when in doubt, so I'm going to stay in. I take the hit very nicely, and I am able to get my rocks up. He goes into his Latias, and I'm thinking that, okay, Latias is probably going to try to drop a Draco, as with being a Spadef Uxie like I have shown to be, he has no other attack that will be able to come close to knocking out my Uxie, and I will be able to go for a U-turn or a T-Wave against this thing. So I'm going to pull the hard switch into Tapu Koko. I'm not going to bother U-turning because I still want to have HP on my Uxie to take like Thunderbolt from Volcarona later, as he does reveal double defog from his Latias, and I'm like, oh crap. So yeah, rocks are going to be important, but they also have shown that if I get up rocks, I can potentially get free turns with, and considering his team and the pressure that I can put on him, that's going to be very, very nice. Now I'm not going to bother setting up with my Tapu Koko. I'm just going to go straight for the Dazzling Gleam, try to figure out what this Go-Goat is, as I was assuming Go-Goat was going to be his switch in, and if he went into Scizor, then Dazzling Gleam into Z T-Bolt might knock it out depending on its spread. But when he's sending Go-Goat, I was thinking, okay, going to be AV. This is going to be like Spadef in some sort. But I was really confused by that damage, because Tapu Koko is like surprisingly weak when it's not going for electric moves. And that did 30% to Go-Goat. So I calc that, and that Go-Goat is simply just max HP. It has no Spadef at all. So I'm like, what the heck is this Go-Goat set? So not wanting to take an Earthquake to the face, I'm going to go straight into my Skarmory. He makes a good play and goes for the Leech Seed, which I was like, okay, yeah, good play. But now that he's probably going to go for like Milk Drink to scout out my set or to figure out what I want to go for, I'm going to go into my Charizard as he pulls a switch into his Thundurus. And now with Charizard in on Thundurus, Thundurus, like I said, has shown to not have a boosting move, or a boosting item at all. So this is just another free Flare Blitz against him. Like, something is not going to enjoy taking that. I mean, even Landorus, like, it's taking like 30% every time it comes in, and it will slowly get worn down. I mean, especially with that burn wearing down his lefties. Like, I feel really bad about that. Like, that just plain and simple kind of sucked. Not kind of sucked, it really did suck, because, yeah, Landorus is just like a non-issue at this point, but not wanting to take advantage of his burn any more than I have to. I'm going to pull the switch into Skarmory, as if he went for U-turn, then it got even more chip off on him, and if he went for Earthquake, well, then I'm free. So, like, well, what was I trying to say? If he went for U-turn, that's chip. If he went for Earthquake, then boom, that is just fine with me. Skarmory comes in for free. If he went for knockoff, that is also chip. Just basically whatever Landorus did, even if it stealth rocked, then I could just immediately defog away. So that was just kind of a free switch into Skarmory at that point, as I was able to avoid the Toxic. And then I taunt on the switch to potentially just keep anything from setting up on me. Like, I wanted to go for Brave Bird, but the more I thought about it, the more I was kind of like, you know what, I just kind of want to keep whatever comes in from being able to set up on me, which this Thundy does come in, and now because it's taunted, it can't go for like Nasty Plot or Agility or anything like that. So Charizard is an absolutely free switch in. Sludge Wave does nothing, and now Charizard's in a great position to roost, as even a Focus Blast will not knock me out from this range. So like I said, I'm just going to go for the Roost right here, as nothing Thundy can do can knock me out, as he pulls a switch into his Landorus once again. And considering that my Charizard is at max HP, even if Landorus was not burnt, I still had a very, very good chance. I think with my investment and his investment, I think I still might have lived a defensive Earthquake. I'm not too sure about that. Let me run the calc really quick. Okay, yeah, so a 0 attack invested Landorus does not KO Charizard from this range, and considering, well, even without the burn, like even if he wasn't burnt, Earthquake still did not KO me from this range. So considering he's gone for U-turn at every opportunity to try to keep momentum up on me, I'm just going to go for the Dragon Claw as opposed to Flare Blitz, because Flare Blitz isn't going to knock him out at this point. So I might as well just go for the Dragon Claw. It's a 2-hit KO. It can hit like Latias on the switch if he wants to try to switch into Flare Blitz. And so now, going for the Dragon Claw, I could go for the Flare Blitz roll, but I was like, nah, I'm just going to go for the safe Dragon Claw, because, I mean, even if he wasn't burnt, then I would have gone for Dragon Claw, as that guaranteed didn't put me in range of Earthquake, even if he wasn't burnt. And he does U-turn into Go-Go, and I'm thinking, okay, Go-Go's the switch into Charizard? But, I mean, I didn't really, I was like, what? But either way, I didn't want to take, like, a Toxic or a Leech Seed if this is, like, a defensive Akaberry Go-Go. So I'm just going to pull the safe switch into my Skarmory as he goes for Toxic and misses, unfortunately. But now I'm going to double into my Uxie, thinking that, okay, he's shown that he's going to go Thundurus on my Skarmory, so I'm just going to pull the switch into Uxie, and I'm going to get my rocks up, as no matter what he does, Uxie is going to live through the turn. He does Nasty Plot, and that is really unfortunate, as, yeah, now he's going to be able to hit me insanely hard as he goes for Sludge Wave. That almost KOs, not quite. Had he not been burnt with his Landorus earlier, then that would have KO'd, and I wouldn't have been able to get the Psyshock damage off, as he will be able to 2-hit KO me with the Sludge Wave, and my Uxie will go down. But now, this Landorus is at +2. I'm thinking, okay, how the heck am I going to deal with this? So I start running calcs, and I end up going into my Tapu Koko, as that's going to be just my best opportunity to take out the Thundurus. So that's exactly what I do, and I calc, and I'm like, okay, T-Bolt isn't necessarily guaranteed to one-hit KO the Thundurus from this range, and I can't afford to have Thundurus knocking out my Tapu Koko, as then he'll still be at +2, and I'll have to let Zard take a massive hit to revenge this thing. So I'm just going to go straight for the Z-move and one-hit KO that Thundurus from this range. And, I mean, even if he was max HP, that still would have knocked him out. Like, even from full, even if I hadn't gotten that Psyshock damage off on the Thundurus with my Uxie, Gigavolt Havoc still would have KO'd that Thundurus from full, and so that is a huge, huge bullet dodged because of Tapu Koko. And he's going to go into Go-Go right now, and I'm like, okay, he's clicked Leech Seed every single time. I'm going to go into my Tangrowth, prevent it from being able to do that, as he does go for the Leech Seed, and he misses, but it wouldn't have affected me anyway, and then pull the switch into my Gengar, as I'm thinking he's going to try to Toxic me, which he does end up doing. And now that Gengar is in, I don't think he's going to sack his Go-Go just yet, because it's still his only response to my Charizard and my Tapu Koko, especially now that rocks are up. Landorus can't switch into Charizard anymore, and the way he's playing this thing has to be Akaberry. Like, there's almost no other set that it could be if he's willing to switch that thing into Charizard. So I know that he's probably not going to want to get rid of his Go-Go or let that thing go down to a potential Sludge Wave. So I'm going to sub up on his potential Lando Sack, or even just his switch in general. I wasn't predicting the Lando Sack, but it actually works out wonderfully for me, as Lando comes in, feints, and Gengar is able to get up a sub. And now look at his team and look at Gengar. One, if not two things are going to die. So, like, either he has to revenge me with a Latias and win this potential speed tie unless he's scarfed, or he has to go into like Scizor, Bullet Punch, and that thing dies. Just basically, I am forcing a KO at this point with my Gengar. He does end up going into his Latias, and I'm like, okay, this thing's probably scarfed. It's going to break my sub, which it does end up doing with Psyshock, and now Latias is gone due to Shadow Ball. So now Tapu Koko is going to be the fastest thing. Guaranteed. Charizard is probably going to outspeed everything as well, and Charizard is looking primed to finish the game up at this point. He goes into his Scizor, and I'm looking at his team, and I'm thinking that, okay, if he goes straight for the bullet punch and knocks me out, Charizard comes in and basically just wins the game. Like, no questions asked. Charizard comes in, claims a kill with Flare Blitz, probably claims another kill with another Flare Blitz, and like, I win the game if Charizard's able to come in for free if he knocks out my Gengar right here with Scizor. So I'm thinking he is so far in the back at this point, he has to try to pull switches, or he has to either pull switches or he has to try to predict me switching out. So basically, like, if I just play safe and attack what's in front of me, not trying to play around his moves at all, I will be able to guaranteed win the game at this point with the combination of Tapu Koko, Charizard, Skarmory, and Tangrowth. So even though Gengar could definitely go down to a bullet punch right here, I'm going to stay in, predict that he's either going to Swords Dance or he's going to go for a Defog to try to get rid of the rocks for Volcarona, and I'm going to HP Fire. As that actually comes through, he doesn't go for the bullet punch. Gengar is able to KO the Scizor with HP Fire, and now Charizard basically all but wins the game, and so does Tapu Koko. He goes into his Volcarona, and in all likelihood, this Volcarona is going to be an offensive set that I can just one-hit KO with a Shadow Ball from here, but because differential does not matter at all in playoffs, I'm trying to look for scenarios in which I lose. Like, I'm looking at this point in the game and thinking, okay, how can I lose? I can lose by him being a bulky Volcarona set, Quiver Dances up as I don't quite kill him with a Life Orb Shadow Ball, then is able to Roost up as Shadow Ball does less and less, and he's able to Roost stall me until he's able to get enough Quiver Dances to where he'll be able to KO my Charizard from that point, and then Volcarona can potentially sweep me. Now, again, that's very unlikely. Like, that's not going to necessarily be the case, as he has to be a very bulky Volcarona to not be KO'd by a Life Orb Shadow Ball from Gengar at this range, and he also has to avoid crits, he has to avoid Spadef drops, all of that stuff, and have Roost and Quiver Dance and Flamethrower plus HP Ground in order to beat me. So I mean, that's a whole lot of ifs, but I'm just thinking that, okay, if he is that set, that's how I can lose. So instead of just trying to clean up the game with Gengar, I'm going to taunt the Volcarona, prevent it from Quiver Dancing up, as if it's taunted, it is not a threat anymore. Charizard comes in and guarantees a kill, as he does kill me with Flamethrower, but like I said, Spadef Charizard comes in, I'm able to Flare Blitz, knock out the Volcarona, and I will be able to knock out the Go-Goat as well. And I was actually kind of thinking, okay, Volcarona's taunted. This Go-Goat has to be defensive and Akaberry. Like, there is no way he is not. And so I was thinking about going for the Dragon Dance, but I was like, you know what? Go-Goat is not a threat. Skarmory with Taunt and Brave Bird can beat it. As soon as Volcarona goes down, then I have the guaranteed win with my Skarmory against his Go-Goat. So I was like, screw it, knock out the Volcarona, which I do, and I'm going to knock out this Go-Goat, but not after he does prove to be both defensive and Akaberry, and he's able to get the Toxic off on my Charizard, but at this point it doesn't matter because another Flare Blitz will be able to take that thing out, and we will be able to win the game 4-0 and move on to the semifinals. So that was a very good game, and I know that it still ended up 4-0, which doesn't look like it's close, but I mean, that was still a very scary matchup because Volcarona could go off at any moment. I had to make sure to keep Charizard as healthy as possible, and Gengar, like I was saying in the team builder, was very, very volatile. It could either do nothing or do a lot. It put the team on its back in this situation, knocked out Latias, knocked out Scizor, and prevented Volcarona from setting up to where Charizard was able to clean up the game. So very good game to volume, and not sure, well actually by the time this video goes up I'll know who I play in the semifinals. In fact, I might have already played them at this point, but this is recorded in advance. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed watching. Hope you will tune in next week for the semifinals. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.